welcome to a social studies skill. This one is dealing with political cartoons. So the question that we're going to answer is, how do you interpret political? And sometimes we call them editorial cartoons. We use both interchangeably. Some teachers will say political, some teachers will say editorial, but they all mean the same thing. So anyways, today we're going to take a look at how do we interpret these various cartoons. We're going to focus on three main questions. Number one, what are political cartoons? Number two, how do you analyze said political cartoons? And then finally, what techniques are often used to create those political cartoons? So what is a political cartoon? Well, a political cartoon is an expression of an individual or a group's opinion. Political cartoons are usually done intentionally. They're not supposed to be fair. They're not supposed to be balanced, because then their message doesn't actually work. Because if it's fair and if it's balanced, it will not make an immediate impact on the viewer. There has to be that immediate impact on the viewer. Let's take this cartoon for example. This is Prime Minister Trudeau, and he's visiting a doctor's office. Why is he visiting a doctor's office? Well, he's got something on his back there. And the doctor is saying this: it's known as Western alienation, Prime Minister. Your dad had it, and I'm afraid it's not going away. And you can see on the eye chart in the back there, it says Wexit, thanks to the Lib Party being re-elected. So this is saying that Western Canada is alienating, is not agreeing with, doesn't like Justin Trudeau. Now, that is an individual opinion. If you look at the numbers, such is not the case for that last election that took place. But then, if it's balanced, it's not going to make for a good cartoon. So how do you analyze political cartoons? Well, you need to focus on the details that are there and any interrelationships that might exist. This is a cartoon that we're going to discuss with as an example right away here after I go through the questions. So if you want to analyze a political cartoon, you should ask yourself the following questions. Who is the caricature in the cartoon, and what are they doing? Sometimes those caricatures are famous people and sometimes they're not, like in this example. If it's a title, what is it? And what event or issue is it highlighting? The third question is talking about symbols. What symbols, if any, are used? What is the meaning of those symbols? What ideas are being distorted? Is there anything out of place or exaggerated? Well, in this cartoon, there definitely is. And what's your reaction to that exaggeration that is being shown? Are there any other points of view, and how can they be used to counter the cartoonist's view? If the cartoonist does a good job, if the artist does a good job, it should be very one-sided, and it should have some sort of bias there, because that's how you are going to have your viewer really impacted. So the last question is going to be, what is its purpose? Are we trying to ridicule something? Are we trying to explain something? Is it revealing an injustice? Or is it just presenting someone or some group's point of view? So in this cartoon, for example, this is a cartoon that is talking about the Young Offenders Act in Canada. And looking at this cartoon, we can see a couple of things. We've got the jail cell. The door on the jail cell has nice tight bars, but the rest of the jail cell, the bars are very wide. So the youth that is here can simply just walk on out. And the expression on his face, the quality is not the best here, but the expression on his face, you can tell that he doesn't really care. So this cartoon is saying that the Young Offenders Act that exists in Canada is too lenient, and it's letting young offenders get off very easily. So what are some of the techniques that are used? Well, the first one is related to the caricature itself. So certain features could be distorted or exaggerated, and you want to sort of make some sort of point. So in this one here, for example, the caricature is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and he's got his nose is really accentuated, so is his chin and his hair. And he is often drawn this way. Then there's stereotypes as well. So Justin Trudeau is often seen as doing lots of ums and ahs, and he's always searching for words, kind of like how, if you've been paying attention to my lessons, sometimes I'm doing the same thing. But he's very well known for that, and artists will pick up on that. Are there any symbols? So oftentimes, if the artist wants to represent peace, the artist will use a dove. If the artist wants to represent Canada, a beaver is used. And if the artist is representing the United States, sometimes you'll see an eagle or Uncle Sam or something like that. The size contrast is used also to make a point. Sometimes you'll see something very large, and that's obviously going to be important. It's going to be powerful. It's going to be noisy. And if something is very small, it's going to be ineffective, and it's going to be timid, or maybe is representing something that is quiet. Sticking with this cartoon, Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, is umming and ahhing, and he's got his thoughts in his head. He wants to do an official apology from the federal government, and this cartoonist is making fun of him, saying that his apologies are very robotic and very computer-like, and you can see there that we have got an error message: formal apology, limit exceeded. The next cartoon, and some more techniques that are used, is color tones are often used. So dark will represent something that's somber or evil, and light lines are going to be whimsical. We will often have clues. Maybe there's going to be some captions like this one: "Welcome to the US." Labels or words appearing within the cartoon. Maybe somebody's holding a sign or whatnot. It's meant to be funny. It's often done in a funny way. And another technique that's used is the different perspectives, so whose point is being illustrated. In this cartoon here, we have Canada. We know that the beaver represents Canada. It's a very common thing. If you don't know, well, he's wearing a Canadian maple leaf shirt, and he's trying to keep people out of Canada at the border. We know that he is at the border because it's the border wall that's there, and it says "Welcome to the United States." So if you're going past the beaver the other way, if you were going behind the beaver, then you'd be entering into the United States. But the beaver is keeping this door closed because he's trying to keep Americans out of Canada. And this particular cartoon is wanting to keep the Make America Great Again crowd out of Canada. We can see that is being represented by the red hats and the Confederate flag, and also people who have COVID as well. And you can see the virus that is on there. All right, I want you to go now and try analyzing some political cartoons. Head out and you can go to the local newspaper. They all have editorial cartoons, and give it a shot. See how you do when it comes to interpreting political cartoons.